Hi, this is Laura. Today I'm going to go over the diagnostic criteria for Asperger syndrome from the DSM 4-TR, which is the most recent diagnostic developmental plan that has been developed for Asperger syndrome and autism. And all you basically need for a diagnosis is 3 traits, 2 from one list of 4 and 1 from another list of 4. And the first grouping is a qualitative impairment in social communication or interaction as manifested by 2 of these things. The first one is marked difficulty in use of nonverbal behaviors such as eye-to-eye gaze, facial expression, body postures, and gestures to regulate social interaction. In other words, in some of us, it's obvious that we have Asperger syndrome because we don't look anyone in the eye, or we might have, some bodily movements that are different that you may notice. But for myself, when I was diagnosed with Asperger syndrome, this is one of the criteria that fit me, because I tend to look away when I'm talking and look at the person when they're talking. I can't concentrate on what I'm saying and the person at the same time, so I have to look away when I'm talking. So that's the way that I manifest number 1. Number 2 is failure to develop peer relationships to appropriate level. When I was a child, I couldn't get other children to play with me, so I always wanted to talk to the teacher or older children or much younger children. And there was a time when I was 19 that my best friend was a 14-year-old girl that had mental retardation, because we related and we connected and she accepted me. And so I never did have peers on the right developmental level, and so I did have number 2, with no doubt. 3, lack of spontaneous seeking to share enjoyment, interests, or activities with people. Now in my report, I was said to not have that and not have number 4, which is lack of emotional reciprocity. But I think I do have more spontaneous seeking to show things to other people, because my special interests, for example, I really will go forward and talk about them and make an effort to connect with people. And I'm a compassionate person, and I tend to be more reciprocal in my interactions than might be expected. So to me, the first 2 criteria fit, the other 2 are weak. But the psychologist that diagnosed me said all 4 applied. All you need is 2, though. And then on to column B, repetitious and stereotyped patterns of behavior, interests, and activities with in one or more area, abnormal in intensity or focus. Now look at that, intensity or focus. It could be intensity. It could be just a passion that you have that's so deep and profound that it's not even a constant activity. And it's said that neurotypical people have passions and we have special interests. But sometimes we take ours way far into the obsessive realm. And so the first one is abnormal intensity or focus. And for myself, making videos is often an unusual intensity and focus. Also, white tigers. I tend to have an obsession for white tigers, which is a little abnormal in intensity, maybe not in focus anymore. And then we have inflexible adherence to specific non-functional routines or rituals. Now these routines and rituals don't seem functional, but we use them to regulate our nervous system and cope with what seems unmanageable through the day. And these look like OCD behaviors, like having to do a certain number of repetitions of something, or count to a certain number, or follow a certain set pattern of getting ready to go to work or school in the same way every day. This is very normal for people with autism. It's part and parcel of who we are. And I also have that quality. Stereotype motor mannerisms could mean anything from nervous tics, or like clearing your throat, or it could be rocking, or it could be something like hand flapping, or whole arm flapping. I don't tend to do flapping that much, but as a child I did, according to my aunt who I spoke with recently. She said I would throw myself down on the floor and just flap my whole arms sometimes for no reason. So the fourth one is persistent preoccupation with parts of objects. And I thought I would not have this because I don't sit and stare at parts of objects, but according to my psychological report, I don't see the big picture, I only see details, and then I fixate on them, which is the same as being obsessed with parts of wholes. So I was said to have all four of these, even though I only see myself in one or two. So letter C is disturbance causes significant impairment in social, occupational, or other areas of functioning. And recently I had a level of adaptive functioning test, which was the Vineland 2 administered. And it was to look at how impaired am I socially, how impaired am I in my communication, life skills, occupational activities. And even though my verbal IQ is 131, my functional IQ is 60, which is a 71-point gap, which was a real shocker to me because, as you can see, I come across articulate and verbal and able to make these videos, and I enjoy and love making these videos. And it's different, though, than having a conversation with me or really getting to know me and seeing the struggles that I face in communication on a day-to-day basis. D is no significant delay in language. I'll also refer back to myself. As a child, I was a hyperlexic baby, and that means a baby that talks a lot. And I spoke 60 words before I was a year old. I spoke in complete sentences at 13 months. I wrote a small book when I was 4 that was read on a children's television program when I was 5. I was reading and writing by 3. And my poetry I read on television when I was 8 years old because it had reached media attention at that point in time. So I was basically a literary prodigy, but at the same time I couldn't tie my shoes until I was 9 years old. And I didn't make my first friend until I was around 16 or 17 because I didn't have friends growing up. Then also we have E, no significant delay in cognitive development. I did very well in school, no problems there. Some people struggle with learning disabilities, and that's a little different. As long as the brain is developing normally, then you are qualified for Asperger syndrome. Number F, the criteria is not met for other pervasive developmental disorder or schizophrenia. That means that you don't meet the criteria for anything else in the book. It has to be only for Asperger's. And that is the diagnostic criteria in a nutshell. For those of you who are wondering, do I have it? You might want to examine this in more detail in my next video, which will be a series of slides with music that talks about each component of the DSM. So you'll have an opportunity to reflect and ask yourself, is this me? And then you'll be more prepared when you have a meeting with a professional to present your symptoms and to ask for help. Thank you very much.